Well, big game this weekend. Can Wisconsin take on Alabama and represent the Big Ten? We got Oregon taking on a ticked-off Oregon State team. Ditto for Washington versus Washington State. And does Purdue now actually have a shot against Notre Dame? We'll talk about all this and your favorite team as we roll. It's time for the Big Ten Squad.
You're talking ball with the Big Ten Squad. From USC to Ohio State, from Michigan to Oregon, from Nebraska to Washington, it's the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network bringing you scoops, breakdowns, and the most comprehensive preview of the upcoming Big Ten weekend. No hurt feelings and thin skin allowed. Squad up, you're part of the Big Ten Squad.
Welcome to the Big Ten Squad. I am Craig Shemon, host of Locked On Big Ten, and today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. All right, we're going to introduce you to the squad, and we got more people coming as well. Jacob Goins from Locked On Hoosiers is with us, coming off a big game last weekend. We'll get into that. Hoosiers are taking on UCLA. We'll get into that. You see in your bottom corner, Zach Anderson, Yoxheimer. We also have Roman Tomashoff from Locked On Huskies and Jay Stevens, where everything's fine at Ohio State and Locked On Buckeyes. And I encourage all of our listeners to check out these guys, subscribe and follow. They're working hard for you, covering your favorite team every single day. Jay, I'll start with you. A little bye before Marshall coming up. I guess right now Ohio State's just its own opponent. Stay healthy and then get into the meat of the schedule later on. But everything's on cruise control.
Pretty much. They played in a way week 2 that people believe they could play, but it's one thing to believe you could see something. It's another thing to actually see it. Western Michigan was not able to do anything, running the ball, doing it through the air. Ohio State's defense set the tone early. And then Will Howard has complete control and command of the Buckeyes offense. You add in Chip Kelly's addition and added wrinkles to the Buckeyes run game. The offensive line took a massive step forward as well. Even you know there are new guys on the O-line. Then Jeremiah Smith, what can you say? The true freshman is coming in. I believe he's going to break Chris Carter's Ohio State freshman receiving records this year because Jeremiah Smith is just different. He has the trust of every Buckeye player, has the trust of the quarterback, and a shutout in week 2, that feels pretty good.
I'm going to ask you, because going into the season, I thought, look, it's Ohio State and Oregon and everybody else, and it was going to be interesting. Now it seems like Ohio State, and that's it. I mean, Oregon, we'll get into this later on the podcast here today. I mean, they're winning, but they're 0-2 ATS, if that's important to you. But who do you look at as the main team that's going to come up and compete with Ohio State this year after we've seen 2 weeks of play?
It's interesting because I still am a person that probably thinks it's Ohio State and Penn State as those two teams there. However, there is a gap. Like, there is a gap between those two. I was kind of in a wait-and-see mode with Michigan. That's what we saw last weekend and really the first couple games this year. I thought Michigan would have to play really, really, really good. I mean, better than people thought they would to be a contender for the Buckeyes in the conference championship game. That's not going to happen. USC maybe. I mean, that's an only other school.
Yeah.
But right now, Ohio State's playing so well. There is a decent-sized gap between the Buckeyes and the other 17 teams in the conference.
Here come the Hoosiers. Here we come. Here we come. Yeah. Yeah. I was waiting on somebody to say it, so I figured I'd go ahead and do it for you.
It's not basketball season.
Listen, you scored more points on Friday night than you did the entire previous season combined.
Breaking records out here, Craig. Breaking records. 1901.
Well, let's get into it. So you got the 77-point game on Friday. And now you're going to UCLA. Zach, let's get you two going here because I know Indiana is extremely excited about this game in the Rose Bowl. I've said on the past broadcasts, podcast as an Indiana alum, we're counting this as a Rose Bowl appearance, baby. So what do you have to say?
Take it when you can.
Why is Indiana so excited about beating a directional Illinois that hasn't won since like 2 years ago? Like, what is so excited about putting 77 on a team that doesn't know what victory tastes like?
We broke records, man. 1901, 77 points, 700 yards. That doesn't happen in Bloomington. And new things are happening. Yes, we counted as a Rose Bowl appearance. We're excited to go out against UCLA. And while Indiana jumped up in the rankings, all the numbers, all that, the fact that we're a favorite on the road still kind of surprises me. But hey, I'll take it. It's a new era in Indiana football. Curt Cignetti, man, great things are happening in Bloomington.
You got the quotable head coach versus the unquotable head coach. I really do. I don't know what we're going to have here.
Yeah, literally. I mean, yeah, it was UCLA's coach who at Big Ten Media Days just was the joke of it, right? Because he just couldn't get out of his own way. And now we've got Curt Cignetti in Indiana who says, I don't care if it's the Rose Bowl or the parking lot. It's a business trip for Indiana. I can't wait for Saturday.
All right. And Zach, you guys coming off that little vacation at Hawaii, so I don't know if you guys are going to be focused.
The only vacation I had was playing EA College Football 25 for the first time this weekend. I don't know if it was a vacation in Hawaii. It was a hard-working, hot Saturday 2 weeks ago when they played the Rainbow Warriors. If they get things working, they get a healthier offensive line, they should look a lot better against Indiana. If they don't, I might have to throw my phone and the podcast will be on hiatus for 2 days or something. I don't know. This would be ugly if it goes terrible on Saturday.
All right. Roman, let's get you in here. The Huskies coming off the win over Eastern Michigan, but now you're taking on Washington State and, Oregon's taking on Oregon State. These are ticked off teams that got left behind. How much of that plays into this game this weekend?
There's certainly going to be a lot of that. I love seeing the little cougs in my mentions on Twitter saying that John Mateer is going to run all over Steve Belichick's defense. Running for 197 yards against Texas Tech isn't necessarily the feat that Wazoo fans think that it is. So that's one thing. But there's certainly going to be a lot of that. And I'm really excited about it. It's at a neutral site this year. It's at Lumen Field. We'll see what the crowd ends up looking like. But I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Washington just continues to get better on both sides of the ball. They're one of 6 teams in the nation that has not allowed a touchdown. And yeah, say what you will about their opponents. But, when you look at just the underlying numbers, Washington's pass rush, they had 7 sacks against Eastern Michigan. I'm really, really excited about the way this team looks.
You're going to have to educate me a little bit on these West Coast teams coming in. Is this series normally at Lumen Field, or does it usually rotate between campuses?
No, this is always a home and home, but after the split, this is the first time it's going to be at a neutral site. And is it really neutral when it's like 4 miles away from UW campus? Not necessarily. But I still think it's going to be a lot of fun. And, we're talking to Carson Bruner of Denzel Boston today. Denzel Boston quoted a former UW center, Nick Harrison. We don't lose to no Cougs around here. They've twice in the last 10 years, I want to say. It's a fun rivalry.
All right. I want to get all of your take on this since we got Jay here with Ohio State. And, I don't know if it's Ohio State in Oregon. He says he still has respect for Penn State, still maybe USC. How about you guys? Who's like the next team that's going to jump up there? Or maybe you still think it's Oregon once they get their act together. Jacob, let's start with you and let's go round robin on this. Who's competing with Ohio State this year?
I mean, it should be Oregon, right? It should be, like you said, if they get it together and they figure it out offensively, defensively, just kind of all the way around and decide to beat the teams they're supposed to the way that they're supposed to. Yeah, don't overlook it. I think it's Oregon. I'm still not sold on Penn State. So, yeah, give me the Ducks.
All right. Roman?
Oh, you're talking to me? Sorry. I was just as confused as Dylan Gabriel against the Blitz. I got to go with Penn State here where if Drew Aller figures it out, same thing. I love the way that their defense still looks. And I'm really excited about guys like Abdul Carter putting it together. And after the way that Oregon's looked against far inferior competition, yeah, give me Penn State there.
All right. Zach, what do you think?
It's unique, right? Oregon struggled against Idaho. Idaho then beats Wyoming, which validates that struggle for Oregon against Idaho. And then they barely beat Boise State, who gave up like 50 to Georgia Southern the week before. Can't trust Oregon at this moment. And I don't really want to give any credit to that team across town, so I'll throw my hat in the ring over to the Penn State side for team number 2.
All right. Do any of you guys think Purdue has a legitimate chance against Notre Dame at West Lafayette after Notre Dame was horrible this past weekend?
Absolutely not. No. I'll speak for everybody. No.
Anybody outside of Indiana? Anybody outside of Indiana?
My bad.
All right, fair enough. Okay, then how about Wisconsin? Any breathing chance against Alabama, or is this like a 25-point game?
I mean, Alabama didn't look great for 3.5 quarters against Southern Florida. So, we can say we will. No, I think Alabama still finds a way to roll.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, it's gonna be bad in Madison. They'll be hyped up, they'll be excited, but they still have a ton of talent at Tuscaloosa. And DeBoer is a good coach, believe it or not, if people forgot. So no, yeah. I think Alabama probably rolls.
Okay. I didn't forget.
All right, we are just scratching the surface here. We'll even bring in a few more of our friends from around the Big Ten and Locked On. We'll get some of their thoughts on some of these big games. Again, Wisconsin is hosting Alabama. It's a big one. It's at noon. And then by the end of the day, our mini Rose Bowl. And in between, Purdue taking on Notre Dame. So we got a lot to talk about. More predictions, more reaction, more trash talking. That's what we do as the Big Ten squad continues. Factor meals are great. It's the end of the day. You don't have any food in the refrigerator, any groceries. You don't want to make anything. You're tired. Factor meals is right there ready to go. Like 2 meals, 2 minutes of prep time. That's it. Very easy. It can meet your wellness goals. And of course, they have a menu full of chef crafted meals, options like Calorie Smart, Protein, Protein Plus, Keto. And they're fresh, never frozen meals. Again, you can have them ready to eat in like 2 minutes or less. It is a piece of cake. They got 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from each and every week. A bunch of flavors for you to explore. Fancy stuff too. Filet mignon, shrimp, blackened salmon, all that kind of stuff. Very effortless, and you can just sit back and enjoy it. Head over to factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 and use the code LockedOnCollege50 and get 50% off your first box plus 20% off of your next month. That's code LockedOnCollege50 at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 and get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active with Factor Meals. And FanDuel makes sports even more fun. We love sports, and you got a little something on it. FanDuel is right there. America's #1 sports book. Check it out. We'll have a little something different for you here. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. So just visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to download America's #1 sportsbook, FanDuel. Well, let's continue with the Locked On Big Ten squad here. We got a couple new members that have joined us here. We have our good friend Trent Condon from Locked On Hawkeyes. They're still licking their wounds from this past weekend. Yeah. And Spencer McLaughlin from Locked On College Football and Locked On Oregon Ducks. Gentlemen, since you're here, I'll start with you. Trent, you get to start. You got Troy. The game this past weekend against Iowa State. I was flabbergasted at first. The first drive was awesome. Did I see 5 wides in an empty backfield? Then you got away from it, 99 yards passing on the day, and you lose the game in a heartbreaking fashion. I mean, boil this down for me. What was I looking at?
Well, you're looking at Ferentz Ball, and Ferentz Ball has worked very successfully throughout the years, but of course he was gone in game number 1, and you saw the second half explosion. Second half, what's the opposite of an explosion? Whatever the hell that was, that's what it was. It was disappointing. Iowa's won so many of these games where they just hold on for dear life, and the craziest part, though, is not that they went into their turtle shell in the second half and didn't do anything offensively, because that's what they do. It was at the defense. No timeouts for Iowa State. They go man. With 78 yards to go, they give up the big play and eventually give up the 55-yard field goal that proves to be the difference there. We're just so unused to seeing Phil Parker's defense actually break in a moment like that. Bad call at the wrong time, and Iowa now licking their wounds, and a lot of questions now going forward about this program and maybe about the future of Kirk Ferentz as this evolution's happening in the Big Ten.
How about the future quarterback, though, with Brendan Sullivan sitting there coming over from Northwestern? And Cade McNamara is only going to give me 99 yards. Why do we stick with him?
Yeah, 5 of 18 for 27 yards over the final 3 quarters after he was sharp early on. A lot of questions today at the press conference just about that, about who is going to be the quarterback. Kirk Ferentz did say if they believe that the backup quarterback can give them a chance to win, then yes, they're willing to go that direction. One problem, Kirk Ferentz's unwillingness to make a change at quarterback. This has been an ongoing issue, and not just recently. We look at the pitiful play of Deacon Hill last year, Spencer Petras before him. I mean, you can go way back to Brad Banks, a Heisman runner-up that was sitting behind Kyle McCann back in 2001. So this has been going on for a long time. Kirk Ferentz, for as smart as he is as a football guy, quarterback and playing the backup, something that he's not been good at.
Yeah, I mean, I have a question, though. 99 yards passing in a game, didn't that set an Iowa single-game record?
Don't you still have nightmares for Boise State Blue?
What? Sorry, I couldn't hear you over that 2-0 start. What'd you say
We're
there?
still undefeated too. I didn't lose the bye week. What are you talking about?
No, but you guys are gonna lose this week.
Yeah, you are. Yes.
Yeah, my guy Jacob up here and Indiana are gonna walk into the Rose Bowl and kick UCLA's rear end, and I'm going to dunk on Bruins fans, and I can't wait.
So glad this is recorded, posted on all of our channels, so that way it's noted that Spencer is on my side. For what?
100%.
He's on my
100%.
side.
You didn't say
They're
the right
actually
side.
UCLA fans? Like this is news to me personally. Like I grew up in LA. I don't think I met any of them.
I'm right here.
No, we haven't met.
We got one. He's here with us right now.
Got him.
Hiding behind the camera.
All right, Spencer. Before you get too high and mighty here, all right, my math, and I'm horrible at math, but I think combined for the first 2 games, you guys were favored to win by like a total of 64 points. You've won by like 13. So 0-2 ATS. We're not winning by big enough. People are upset about it. Go ahead.
Yeah, the offensive line is a wreck at the moment. They have allowed more sacks through 2 games than they did in all of last season, which had 14 games in it and played some defensive lines slightly more ferocious than Idaho and Boise State. There are communication issues. They don't know who their starting center is with an injury at right guard in fall camp. It has thrown a major wrench into things. If Oregon figures out the offensive line, everyone else is fine. Plenty of Oregon fans on Twitter will complain about Dylan Gabriel. He's not the issue. He is not playing the best football that he's capable of. But to look at Oregon through the first couple of games and say this is a Dylan Gabriel problem, he hasn't thrown an interception. He's thrown 4 touchdowns and he's gone for 380 and 240 yards. Like this is not. He's certainly missed a couple of throws. He is not picking up pressure incredibly well. And I think that goes back to the offensive line. You fix the offensive line, you fix Oregon, because I think the defense still has a couple areas of improvement, but the defense is fine.
You better figure it out before
Special
October
teams
12th.
touchdowns to beat Boise State.
Yes, Jay,
I
yes,
just want
we
to throw
are.
that out there.
Say that again, Roman.
It took 2 special teams touchdowns to beat Boise State. I just want to throw that out there. And for all the Oregon
That's
fans
true.
that are on Twitter with the talking point of, Washington, barely skated by in a whole majority of their games. They beat Boise State 42-10 last year, by the way. Just
Okay, I didn't know we were in 2023, but Roman, this is 2024, where folks, we actually have games now. This isn't July or June where we have to talk about last year's games because we have new games to discuss here. But no, I mean, Eastern Michigan, that's a powerhouse there, and no shame being tight with them in the first half.
Was that me or you who was in the chat just now talking about national championships when your school has none? But certainly wasn't me.
Got the same number as Washington, man.
And that's
Washington
certainly
has
not
one.
true. Washington has 2.
Washington has a shared one.
Yep.
Washington has 2.
Hey, by the way,
Shared ones, yes.
Spencer.
They have a couple of shared national championships. That is a
more than
factual
you.
statement. And Oregon doesn't have it. Oregon doesn't have a shared national championship. I agree.
Oregon has
Everybody
nothing.
got a participation trophy, and it was really fun.
Spencer, you got to teach your guys to cross the end zone before they start celebrating the touchdown.
I thought Deshaun Jackson taught us long ago not to do that. I thought Kalen Clay reminded us all. The fact that anyone does that is so mind-boggling. It's inexplicable from a third-year college football player, by the way. I don't know. I'm sorry, fourth-year college football player. I don't know how to explain those particular moments, but shout out Jaden Lamar, hero of the game.
All right. Now, Jay started to talk a little bit about October 12th. I like to get that going. I know that's several weeks away, but how are we looking at this? Because before you got here, Spencer and Trent, we were trying to figure out, all right, Oregon's got some things to fix, but they're 2-0. Are they still the front runner to try and compete with Ohio State? So, Jay, Spencer, I'll let you have the next couple of minutes. Go at it. October 12th.
You're about to get beat so bad. Oh, my God. It's going to be so much fun to watch. Have me on the show. Have me on whatever show you want.
Can't wait.
Just do my thing. And, yeah, this defensive front's playing in a way that if Oregon does not figure out the offensive line, it's going to be really bad for y'all.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and disagree with that. We'll see if they look any semblance of better this week against Oregon State. I think the good news is that Oregon's defensive line is living up to the billing. They look good. They have looked good each of the last couple of weeks. They're winning 1v1s. They're not getting pushed around. The long runs that Ashton Genty last week can be directly attributed to the safety. Certainly there were a couple holes created by the Boise State offensive line, but linebackers and safeties with some bad run fits last week. That's got to get better against Oregon State this week. All in preparation, of course, for the Ohio State game, where you know Chip Kelly is going to run the football. He's got two great running backs. It's the best tandem in the country. And if Ashton Genty walks in and goes for 192 and 3 scores, what do you think Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson are going to do? Maybe a crazy college football reality will come to fruition where it's like, hey, on paper, this should happen, and then the exact opposite happens. But right now, I am not confident in Oregon's ability to stop the run because of what is behind the defensive line.
All right. I want to get all of your reaction on a couple things since we don't have representation today from Isaiah and Michigan, and get your thoughts on Nebraska and where they're going after that. That was a fun atmosphere against Colorado last Saturday. We'll get some final thoughts going in to week 3 as we continue with the Locked On Big Ten squad. Stay with us. And I want to tell you about LinkedIn Jobs. If you have a small business, or maybe you own the business, or maybe you run a small office, you know, if somebody quits, leaves, fired, you got to replace them. And now you got to take time out of your job to go find the replacement for that gig. So quality professionals all over there with LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. Now, LinkedIn isn't just some job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals that you can't find anywhere else, even if those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to that perfect role. And give it a month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. So check it out. LinkedIn Jobs. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. As we continue here with the Locked On Big Ten squad, let's get some final thoughts going into this weekend with you guys that are here. Spencer and Trent, you joined us in the second segment. Any of you two have any thoughts on the big game? Does Wisconsin have any chance against Alabama? And does Purdue now? You know, we talked a little bit about Purdue. Notre Dame was a big surprise over the weekend. So there's some big games dotting our schedule here. But let's do Wisconsin and Alabama, the realistic game here. Any chance for the Badgers? Trent, start with you.
No chance at all. I think this is going to be a drubbing. Alabama struggled their own right against South Florida, but this Wisconsin team, it's broken. And I think it says something to my fan base of the Hawkeyes, people looking for a replacement, looking to the future of Kirk Ferentz. Don't go this direction. You know, there are certain teams that have to be built a certain way, and that is Wisconsin. Trying to go to this new style of offense, it doesn't work with who they can recruit, how they can be built. I think this is going to be a drubbing. I think this is going to be eye-opening, and I don't know how quickly the Badgers will be looking on, but if this is as bad as I think it can be, there's going to be a lot of murmurs already in year 2 about making a change.
Wow. Spencer?
I think if Wisconsin plays the way they did in the first couple of weeks, they won't have a great chance. But that doesn't mean you can't elevate your game. Look at Alabama last year, for instance. Granted, it was a different head coach, but I think a pretty good one. Bama early in the season, not very impressive. Granted, it was in a monsoon, but why was that game with South Florida close? I don't know. You tell me. It was. And then at the end of the year, they beat Georgia in the SEC championship game.
Yeah.
When Pat McAfee correctly, trolled Georgia fans and picked him to do so. It was the greatest Pat McAfee moment of his entire career. But I think for Alabama, this is an opportunity to put the rest of the SEC, particularly the fans, on notice, because through 2 weeks, you beat down Western Kentucky. All right, that's kind of what you should do. You're unimpressive against South Florida, but you showcase the potential in the fourth quarter. I think that for Alabama, if they go in and win this game like 30-13 and they cover that 15-point spread, I think the rest of the SEC will go, oh boy, here we go again. Here comes Alabama.
Let's talk about Michigan, guys. Last year, both Texas and Michigan were in the Final Four college football playoffs. They were all up here, elite. I think Texas is still here. I think Michigan has some significant drop-off. I thought they'd be better than people expected, but they've got a lot of broken pieces right now. Jacob, I'll start with you. Your thoughts on where Michigan is, and can they bounce back and be good this year?
Look, I'll be honest, going into it, I picked Texas to win. I picked Texas to win in a landslide. I thought Michigan could put up some sort of a better fight than that, but I just think they're an 8-4 football team. I really, really do. I mean, you look at what they lost, what they have, and the talent differential from them and Texas was visible, not just by the final score, but by up front on the in space, just everywhere you looked, it was visible, the talent difference. So, look, I think Michigan's an average team. I think they'll be middle of the pack in this ever-growing conference, and I'm not going to say they embarrassed the Big Ten this past weekend, but they kind of did. They were on the national stage and let the new SEC team walk into the big house and just take care of business.
Jay, you got to like what you're seeing with your rival here in the conference right now.
I was going to say, I could see it in Jay's eyes. He's chomping at the bit to talk about Texas walking into the big house and just dog walking them.
I am not the guy
Go, Jay,
that
you got
put
it.
a tweet out there today that said Ohio State's third-string running back has more touchdowns than Michigan has on the ground all season.
Ooh.
Which is true. Also, is anybody surprised like me that Donovan Edwards was a cover athlete for the new video game? Because I was not thinking he was that caliber of guy. One thing Michigan should have done this offseason was go out there and get a quarterback from the portal. They didn't do that. So let's just say their offensive line was playing better. Their defense was what the defense is supposed, what we thought it was going to be. They still don't have a good quarterback. They don't have a competent quarterback. Yeah. And so they're still trying to figure things out at the quarterback position, the most important position on the field. That goes to be a big reason why Texas did what they did. But when you look at their schedule, they're going to struggle to win 8 games. And I was an 8-4 guy for Michigan all year long, all offseason leading into the start of this year. If they get 8 wins, that Wolverines fans might be celebrating like they did last year when they won the national championship, because 8 wins is going to be very hard when your 2 quarterback system is one of the worst I've ever seen.
Yeah, and of course they got Arkansas State.
You watched
Maybe they
Iowa?
can get well there.
Well, you guys got that guy that used to play for them, and well,
Trent, are you a baseball fan at all?
I'm a Twins fan. It's that's also been falling apart here lately.
Okay, well, I was just thinking, Iowa fans and Seattle Mariners fans, we should have like a collective get together, because we walk around with these great defenses and they're so good and they get all this national praise and they put up these great numbers, and the offense, which just needs to be like halfway watchable, can't do it. They can't do it. And that just clicked in my head. I'm like, oh, Mariners fans, Hawkeye fans, handshake. We're in the same boat.
How about that?
Spencer, it sounds like you've been watching Locked On Hawkeyes all summer long, because that's all we've been asking for, and it doesn't look like it's going to deliver again.
Have you looked at the Mariners lineup? Man, this is so bad.
Hey, I got 77 points you can borrow if you want some.
Oh, we didn't have the Leathernecks on the schedule this year.
Hey, you should, man. It's a fun time.
I know.
Hey, guys, close me out. I had a lot of fun watching the atmosphere in Lincoln this weekend. National TV, Coach Prime, Deion Sanders just getting beat like a drum. Dylan Raiola is something to be dealt with for the Huskers. Since we haven't really mentioned them, any observations by you? Can they be – nobody really mentioned them when we were talking earlier today. Who's going to be in that next tier with Oregon trying to catch Ohio State and Penn State? We really didn't talk about Nebraska. What do we think about them?
I'll start with this one. Some of us coming into the year said Nebraska is going to be a 9-3 football team. Some of us, I don't know who those people are. I'm sure they exist. I'm sure they're out there. Look, there's I'm a bad weather man. There's Trent right there. He's got it. He's got it all figured out. I think this Nebraska defensive staff is spectacularly good. Without radically overhauling the roster, they went from 27 points a game to 17 when they took over last year. Their quarterback play was the worst. I mean, Iowa was jealous of it, but like it was just so bad. And now Dylan Raiola, who has got all the Patrick Mahomes potential in the world, he just has to be solid, which is what he's been so far. Nebraska's a good team. They're going to be an 8-9 win football team here in 2024.
Here's my problem with Nebraska. I think they can be good. I really do. But I'm in see it to believe it mode. If they prove it to me, I'll honor it. I'll accept it. But in no way am I going to predict Nebraska to be good until they can put it on the field for an entire season. Again, if they do it, props to them.
Okay. Jacob, I'm right there with you. I think this was more an indictment in Colorado and just their ineptitude as opposed to, look, Nebraska, they've arrived. I think Nebraska's going to be good this year. I love that defense, and we'll see with Raiola in the big moments, but I think this is more just about what is happening with Colorado than Nebraska's finally arrived. Look, the schedule is incredibly easy before Jay's Buckeyes put it to them coming up in late October. They're probably going to rip off at minimum 6-1 going into that game, maybe even a 7-0. They're going to be there, but until we see that, I just don't see a whole lot there. You look through. I mean, they had 12 penalties in the game. It was Colorado, 6 sacks in the game. Yeah, credit the Nebraska defense, but I still need to see more as well. I think they're going to be good, but this was not something that I say, all right, here it is. Nebraska, they're back.
All right, Jay, final word.
When it comes to Nebraska, I think that this is what Scott Frost should have been able to do. He just could not figure it out at some key spots. Remember, it was one game a couple years ago, Ohio State played Nebraska, and I'm going into the game thinking Nebraska's defense is way better than I thought it was going to be, watching the film leading up to it. And even in that game, I think it was a one-score game, and Ohio State had the largest margin of victory of any team that beat Nebraska that year. Matt Rule can build things. We're talking about competing with other schools to play Ohio State or be at the top of the conference with Ohio State. 8-9 wins, I don't think that's good enough. I don't know. They can get 8 or 9 wins. Probably 8 is probably more where I will lean. But I still don't think that they are more one of those schools that can compete to battle with Ohio State to win the conference this year. Maybe next year, maybe the year after, but I don't see it this year.
All right. Great job, guys. Enjoy the weekend coming up. And that'll do it for another edition with the squad here. Follow and subscribe all these guys to your favorite Big Ten team. And we'll be covering your favorite team every day throughout the season. And don't forget, I'll have you covered with the entire conference every day with Locked On Big Ten, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.